page, and you've got witches in that Scottish play, and you know, there's magic in epic literature, in epic storytelling, and they just sort of accepted it. There's a ghost in Hamlet, no big deal, just a ghost. It's like supernatural elements are part of the story, and since that's what I read all through college, I was sort of like, what do you mean this is fantasy? That's just storytelling.
When you take a group of people and put them in a location that will isolate them from everything and everyone else, is that the location itself becomes a character. So Henry Island and the house that they're staying at, which is called White Rock House, have to be as fleshed out, as interesting, as menacing as any villain could be.
But I was really interested in writing about people trying to move on after an unfathomable disaster. And there are lots of different elements that came in the writing of that. But one really cool thing in terms of like seeding little bits of culture into this book and little bits of what we know into this book, I really thought of it as like there is a moment and there's only before and after. And so Eve is growing up in this time after. So anything she can find from the time before, any little bit of culture, whether it's an archived Madonna tape in the school library, whether it's a Winnie the Pooh picture book, whether it is Anna Karenina, whether it is a Dummy's Guide to Swimming, is equally valuable to her because it tells her something about the past that she didn't know. And anything from that time is so fascinating to her. It's like a little artifact, you know? So much of the book, there are Beatles references and stuff, but her reference for the Beatles is, oh, that was that song that Pip found in the library and then really liked, you know, that one song that she sang in the shower. So the Beatles aren't the Beatles, really, or, you know, Madonna's not Madonna anymore. It's just something from the past. So that's kind of what I was really...
I got her voice, and then I felt as if I was channeling her. I mean, and I don't mean that in a sort of a weird California, I was sitting under Christmas kind of way, but I felt as if to write her in her voice, I was her, and you know, as flawed as this girl is, I really loved her, and I also hated her much in the way that she loved and hated herself.
Later on, because the book does deal with some deeper concepts around yoga, around Sikhism, around Judaism, etc. I kind of vetted some of the material through some of these people that I spoke about, including one friend of mine who's a genius of Jewish history and theory and academia, who instead of Google, we call him Jugal. So I did talk to Jugal about it later, but early on no.
About a girl figuring out who she is without this guy, because something I noticed from my friends, and it doesn't even stop when you're not a teen anymore, it's, you know, young women and women in general, I think there's incredible pressure to absorb yourself into their life. So Sadie, when she stops and looks around, she's like, well, you know, I have all this music that he introduced me to, and I have the books that he loved, and I have the movies that I watched with him, but that's his life. And so she sort of likens it to those flowers that will grow around the shape of something else. And so it's really, you know, the second state, you know, beneath the kind of the fun hijinks of trying to get over this guy who she's obsessed with, is this idea of taking stock and thinking, you know, who am I without him?
Fool around and fool around and fool around until the melody was intact. You know, I didn't want to learn anything. I don't want to impart knowledge. You know, I want to entertain people. I want people to read these fairy tales, remember the originals, and literally think, oh my God, that was fun to read. You know, that was really fun. That's a really interesting idea.